why don't you start by introducing to the audience what the Sassoon Codex is?
Okay, so the Sassoon Codex is a manuscript that Nehemia has talked about quite a bit in the past. Nehemia, whenever you talk about Masoretic manuscripts, you mention what are called the Big Six,
Mhm.
the most important six manuscripts
Yeah.
of the Masoretic tradition and of the Hebrew Bible. And
Mhm.
Codex Sassoon, which is also referred to in scholarship as Sassoon 1053, is one of the earliest extant biblical manuscripts of the Hebrew Bible and of the Masoretic tradition. It's within the same realm of the famous Aleppo Codex.
Mhm. And actually, there's a theory that, well, there's a reference to a manuscript that's called about 1,000 years ago, 900 years ago. It's referred to as the brother of the crown in one of the documents from the Cairo Geniza. And there's a theory that that Sassoon 1053 or the Sassoon Codex is the brother of the crown. One of the things that seems to point to that is, at the very least, we can say that the scribe that wrote notes in the margin of Sassoon, or in some of the margins of the Sassoon Codex, he used the Aleppo Codex. The Aleppo Codex in its day was considered the most accurate copy of the Bible. It was completed around the year 925 in Tiberias by the master scribe Aaron ben Asher. And in the Sassoon Codex, I'm going to pull this up here on the screen. And actually, before we get to that, I actually had the opportunity in 2019 of examining the Sassoon Codex myself. I spent 4 days there with Professor Yosef Ofer of Bar-Ilan University and Dr. Neria Klein of the Hebrew University Bible Project. This is a miracle for me because I had been looking for this codex for years. So you mentioned the Big Six, and the Big Six were defined by Rabbi Mordechai Breuer, who is actually a winner of the Israel Prize, right? That's like the Jewish world's equivalent of the Nobel Prize issued by the state of Israel. And he was one of the greatest scholars of the Masoretic text. He spent years of his life studying the Aleppo Codex. And the problem is part of the Aleppo Codex is missing. So the question is, how do you fill in the missing parts? And then also sometimes there's mistakes in the Aleppo Codex. What do you do when there's a mistake? How do you know it's a mistake? So what Mordechai Breuer and other scholars like Israel Yevin did is they compared the Aleppo Codex to manuscripts that were close to the Aleppo Codex, that were similar to the Aleppo Codex. They were from the same tradition as the Aleppo Codex, you could say. Breuer specifically defined these big six. Those are the Leningrad Codex. Leningrad Codex is the basis of a lot of printings today because it's complete. So the BHS, Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartense, is based on that. That's the Bible used in every seminary and university in the world, the printed Hebrew Bible. You've got the Aleppo Codex, of course, this Sassoon Codex, the Damascus Crown, the British Library Oriental 4445, and the Cairo Codex of the Prophets. Those are the Big Six. There are other ones. The other ones tend to be fragmentary. They tend to be parts of manuscripts, whereas these six are more or less complete. They're not complete, right? The Aleppo is missing about a third of it, right? But it's so important because it was completed, or it was proofread by Aaron ben Asher. For years, I've been trying to get my hands on the Sassoon Codex. And I had read in a book by a scholar at the National Library of Israel. In a little note at the end of the book, he mentions that Sassoon 1053 is in the hands of somebody named Jack Safra. Don't know who that is. Had no idea who he was. Find out he's a banker in Switzerland. Every time after that I would meet a banker or anybody who was a millionaire or more, I would say, hey, do you know Jack Safra? No, never heard of him. Okay. Somehow they got to go to the same cocktail party. Somehow I got to find this guy. For years, literally, I would meet people and say, oh, you have a company, you're involved in banking. Do you know this person? Nobody knew him. Then out of the blue, I get an email from Professor Yosef Ofer at Bar-Ilan University, who I was doing my PhD dissertation with. and he tells me that he's going to Geneva to examine Sassoon 1053, the Sassoon Codex. Do I want to come with? And absolutely, I want to go with, and I want to share a photo here. It's a beautiful thing here. This is me in Geneva with the Sassoon Codex. This is really at the end of the 4 days where we did our photo op at the end of the 4 days. And there it is.
Wow.
That's the Sassoon Codex. And it really is an amazing thing because there aren't that many. It's not complete. It's missing some pages. By the way, there's a beautiful description of this codex and discussion about it on Sotheby's website. It's about to be sold at Sotheby's. That's why we're discussing it right now. They're asking $30 million and up. They expect it might go for 50. Who knows, right? Maybe people will be watching this years from now and say, "Oh, that was the codex that never sold," or "That was the codex that sold for $100 million." I have no idea. But one of the things that's really special about it is it was originally a complete Bible. So I mentioned the Damascus crown as one of the big six. The Damascus crown was only ever the Torah.
Okay.
Oriental 4445 was only ever the Torah. The Aleppo Codex was originally a complete Bible, but about a third of it's missing. You have Leningrad Codex is complete, but it was written about 100 years after this codex, maybe 50 years, not so clear. Leningrad Codex is extremely important. But of the big six, only 3 of them were ever complete Tanakh, the complete Hebrew Bible. Leningrad, Aleppo, and this one, Sassoon 1053. Cairo Codex of the Prophets is only the prophets, right? Hence the name, right? So that in itself makes it extremely important.